I call to order the meeting of the Planning Commission. Our first order of business is the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
As I always do, I want to welcome those who are here tonight joining the Planning Commission in our agenda. And of course, equal welcome to those that are viewing through the live stream, Facebook, or on Channel 23. Our first order of business after the Pledge of Allegiance is the minutes from the last meeting in March. The minutes have been provided by the town staff to all of the commission members here. I'll pause for a moment in case there are any notes. And I'll look for a motion from a commissioner as to approval or disapproval of the minutes as written.
I would move to accept.
Commissioner Butts makes the motion. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Commissioner Bynek seconds. It's now open to discussion, amendments, or recommended changes on the written minutes. Are there any? Hearing no amendments or changes to last month's minutes, then all those in favor of the minutes as written, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? The March minutes pass unanimously. Next on our agenda is an opportunity for any citizens that are here joining us tonight to make comments. And the recommendation is that the comments be steered toward any items that are not on the agenda. I will provide ample time during each agenda item for that contribution from anyone here wishing to speak on that agenda item. So if there are any members of the public here in the audience who wish to make a comment during this period, please raise your hand. Seeing none, I close the citizen comments period of tonight's agenda. And we move now to a report from our two county liaisons. I understand Hannah is here from Carroll County. We do not have Justin from Frederick, but certainly welcome, Hannah.
Hello, everybody. Fair warning, I'm going to be throwing out a lot of dates at you if you want to get your pens ready. So first off, we have the water and sewer amendment that includes the Mount Airy Mobile Home Park. That will be going for the public hearing on May 16th with the county commissioners and then for adoption on May 30th. After the county commissioners' adoption, it will be sent to MDE for their final approval. And next, we have our housing study. We officially have a website online. The website is carrollcountymd.gov/housing study. On this website, there's a survey for anybody and all to take. And then there are also a couple of dates that have been official that we have set. So we have the Sykesville Arts and Wine Festival on May 4th. The Westminster's Farmers Market on May 25th, and then the New Windsor Carnival also on May 25th. These are only the three that have been finalized so far. We're still working on getting one set up for Mount Airy.
And a quick question. On the housing study, what's the big picture of that? What's the objective? What are you hoping to better understand and so forth?
I'm not the direct planner, but our overall study and hope for it is to get recommendations on housing inventory, what citizens of the municipalities and the county would like to see, kind of comparing trends that are ongoing nationwide and how they could possibly fit into Carroll County. Really taking stock into the inventory because, it's tough out there.
Well, that's excellent, and that's a great parallel for what we're doing too.
Yep. So like I said, those three events have been finalized. We're still working on getting one in Mount Airy or around the Mount Airy area. And that's it for me.
Excellent.
With respect to our amendment to the water and sewer master plan and the trailer park, and we're provisioning water to that out-of-town parcel, Do you foresee any difficulties with the wording that we provided the commissioners on that?
Not at all. The commissioners approved it to go to public hearing, and then we also sent Price Wagner, our water and sewer planner, sent the staff report and everything that included your consistency report to MDE, and they said, they provided comments, but there was nothing about the comments you
pushback.
provided.
Excellent.
Yep.
Any other commissioner questions to Ms. Weber? Thanks so much, Hannah.
Thanks.
If I may just kind of riff here a bit, since Justin, our Frederick County liaison, is not here, I'll just make a couple of general announcements to the public and the commissioners, and that is the commissioners are finalizing their efforts with regard to the 2023 to 2033 Town Comprehensive Master Plan Update, a state-required document. Metaphorically, we're rounding third, heading home, I think is fair to say. And Hannah, we are going to be delivering the draft that will go under your county, Frederick County, and State Department of Planning reviews for that 60-day required period. And so we're going to be setting up the mechanism so that's easy for you to pull those documents, review them, and then likewise give us feedback. And so for each of the commissioners, there's a revised workflow schedule that's going to reflect that submission. We're aiming for, we being town staff and ourselves are aiming for that submission into that Dropbox to begin those reviews Wednesday. And so there's a lot of activity right now trying to get it to as close to maybe the 95% got it good point. You know, perfect is the enemy of just good enough, and so we're trying to get it close to perfect, and so we'll look for the county and the state to give us those refining words to edit it properly. But that will carry through their reviews until roughly the end of June, and then in July, as your schedule shows, commissioners will pick it up again with their feedback, and as I've already said, we'll tweak it further and make it better, and we'll grind that effort out to where we're hopefully going to submit a draft that's suitable for the council's review in the October timeframe. And then we'll aim for hopefully that dialogue to get us to where they can approve it before the end of the year. So that's kind of a thumbnail sketch of the way ahead with regard to the master plan. To assist us in the last comment here, to assist us all in the master plan getting as good as it can, 3 of the commissioners and the director of planning and zoning administrator are going to go Thursday into the Capitol for a smart growth summit. And it's an all-day affair. And again, in our efforts to try to continue our education with regard to smart growth and how it applies to the town of Mount Airy, that's what we're all doing. And we're each assigned to breakout groups that are going to bring hopefully some better insight to certain areas of municipal planning and how we can bring value to planning for the town. So that's on our chart this week. We do intend to come back and provide some feedback for the other commissioners so they can also glean some value out of us going and representing the town. So with that then, I'd like to move into our first agenda item, and that is the introduction and discussion of approval of a business. Tony Pazzo LLC has submitted an application for a proposed sign for a new business located right here on Main Street. I believe it's in the former Lorienzo's restaurant, just around the corner from us here. And so as we typically begin, I'm going to turn to the staff for their report and their recommendations regarding this application. And if I could ask if there's someone here representing, please, sir, come forward, and you're welcome to sit here at the mic and make sure the green light is on if you don't mind.
Yep, it is.
And we'll start with John here as far as the background on the application.
Yeah, so we did receive an application for the new Italian restaurant that's going along Main Street here, right near Town Hall. Again, with the application, the sign, I guess, attached and also being viewed by the public possibly, is a total of 27 square feet, measuring 12 feet wide by 2'3" high. And the available total square footage for the property would be 28. So with this, based upon 112-11, staff recommendation for this is to grant approval of the requested sign application. Again, and I would ask our applicant to go ahead and introduce yourself to the commission. And
Okay. My name's Tony Carino, one of the owners.
Welcome, Tony.
Thank you.
Would you like to add anything to the application from what already has been reported by the town staff?
In regards to the sign,
Yes, sir.
no, the designer was going for like a Broadway kind of look, I guess.
I see.
With the sign. It's not going to be light bulbs in there. The sign's lit from the outside.
It's externally lit.
Externally lit, yeah. I've had a couple people ask me that.
I think
so-
they call them gooseneck lights.
Yeah, they're existing up there right now. So the sign's going to be pretty much the same size, yeah.
Right.
And there's going to be a matching sign inside the restaurant when you walk in that will be lit. We've totally redone the inside.
Great. Great.
Quick question, in terms of Italian restaurants, and I think we probably all enjoy them, and we've been to quite a few. What are the distinguishing features of your restaurant?
In regards to the menu,
Yeah.
okay. Whenever I design a menu and my partner, we talked about it together, we try and appeal to the whole community. So there is a brick oven pizza there. So we're going to have pizza. We'll have some paninis, some sandwiches, salads, appetizers. However, if you want a really nice Italian dinner and you don't want to drive to Facci or up to Frederick, that'll be available too. We'll have a veal chop, some nice seafood dishes. My parents are from Italy, so we will have some homemade pastas that have been in our family for years. We're actually looking, we're actively looking at a pizza crust from Rome. It's a new, it's pretty new. It's called a pinza crust. So we have a company in Rome that's putting that together. So we're playing with that right now.
Great. At this point, I ask for anyone in the public that wants to make a comment with regard to the application or a business nearby. I also asked, John, did you have a chance to take any pictures of adjoining?
I did, and that is on your desk as well, along with the design guideline sections. So this sort of shows you the design guidelines from the town. And if you flip back, I think it's 5 pages, 6 pages, excuse me. You'll see sort of the Deja Vu Boutique. Again, theirs are applied letters that they have. And maybe show that to Tony as well, if you don't mind.
Yeah, I can give Tony. Do you have a copy for him?
Yeah, they have one.
And if you go to the next one, Mount Airy Commons is sort of the same thing. I think this is the same material that they're proposing
Right.
for this type of sign. It's a very hardened foam that they can etch out to sort of simulate almost like a wood finish, I think. And it doesn't break down. I was looking at the second one, which was the Commons.
Mount Airy Commons.
The commons, okay. So it's gonna look like the commons and not,
It's going to look more like Catonsville Home, which of course is the adjoining business to this structure. I was just showing examples of other ones within the downtown zone. And if you look at the Tony sign, this was the original design from what my understanding is, and then they did a revamp of the sign, and this is the sign they're proposing. If you look at the original one, it was more of the same size lettering, and it had a spatula, or I don't know what the thing is that you pick the pizzas up with. Is that a spatula? I don't know.
Peel, yep.
It's a peel.
Peel, okay.
We learned
Pizza peel.
something.
Pizza peel, okay. But yeah, so the Catonsville home is very similar, of the same type of material that they'll be using for this sign. If you look, it's probably the same size as what
Catonsville.
Catonsville's is in relationship to that.
Continuity.
Okay.
staff recommendation for this sign?
I'm recommending approval, granting approval of the requested sign. It meets the parameters for the sign application. It's not illuminated by itself. The dots are not illuminated. They're not, gemstones that'll be reflecting. I think it's just a painted dot or some type of dot.
So Tony, the dots, are they going to be white or are they going to end up being finished as like a yellow or?
I believe white to kind of mimic a light, I guess. Yeah, I believe white. I wasn't involved in the process. My partner was. He couldn't make it, so I came here. But I'm pretty sure white.
Okay.
Yeah.
Are you, off topic a bit, are you guys inheriting the upstairs, which was the Phoenix
Yes.
room as well?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
So you're going to have 2 levels of dining?
Yes. We the previous owners of the steps were actually in the kitchen.
Yeah.
So I don't think they could use it. The health department wouldn't let them use it. We actually shortened the kitchen a little bit and turned the steps. So now we'll be able to use it from the inside. It's going to be part of the restaurant. It'll be a private room for lunch or for dinner, and then also overflow on the weekends, hopefully.
Yeah.
Yeah.
When is your open date or your presumed open?
We're shooting for the beginning of June,
Okay.
which is not too far away.
No, it's not.
We're pretty staffed up. I mean, we need some more servers and bartenders, but I have the kitchen staff. Menu's done. There's some things to do inside, obviously, but we're excited. We're ready to go.
The only thing I could say, I mean, I'm just concerned that the sign doesn't match the downtown look of all of the other signs. That's my only concern, is that it doesn't match the outside of what all of the other ones look like. So I appreciate all the color and, the Hollywood kind of look to it, or Broadway or whatever, but still, I just think that it's not matching what is downtown right now. That's my only comment.
Okay.
Thank you.
Any other commissioner comments?
If they just took off the polka dots, how would you feel about it?
I'm okay with that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because that's like my only thing. It just, every other sign, it's just, the words are blocked and plain. Definitely makes it stick out, but how upset would you be if we just said remove the polka dots?
That's something I would have to confer with my partner. There's 4 of us involved, my wife, my partner, and his wife.
Yeah, I think if
I don't want to speak for them.
Yeah, no, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Just asking.
I think, and certainly check me if I'm wrong, from the 2 commissioners that have commented on the sign style, I would roll in with similar comment, and that is, we've always tried to respect the historic district and the harmony of everything from signage to all the amenities that are all along this district, what we call the downtown zone. And so that's why we're kind of keen on what signage looks like, particularly in this area. And I think some of the comments that you've heard reflect kind of concern about, does that fit in kind of a historic district kind of display? And so, the Broadway look, I think, is a word that kind of you said was a theme in designing this sign. Would there be consideration of a signage that would be, and I know it's subjective, more in keeping with a historic sign, but still advertise your service, your product, and your restaurant?
I don't want to speak for my partner. He was a lot more involved in this than I was.
Right.
Obviously, you saw the other sign that we had. So,
Right.
again, I would have to talk with Chris about that.
Can I?
Sure, happen.
So I understand what you're getting at, but I think because those are not lit,
Okay.
it might be okay. I think the issue that I see is that that's their logo. And so if you're asking them to change their logo, like he said, when you go inside, it's going to be the same thing, but with the lights inside of the letters. And so I mean, as a business, you want consistency in your branding, so I don't know if that's the right ask.
Yeah, I mean, that's a very good point. You know, one of the reasons why we switched the sign up is the first one screams pizza.
This one.
And I can't tell you how many people have come to me. I own Tony Loco's in Woodbine, and they ask me, when are we opening a pizza place? And, you know, it's a restaurant. I went to Lorienzo's a long time ago, and it was a full-service restaurant that had pizza, you know. So that's what we're going for. You know, we're going to have a nice menu, very healthy menu. There was not a fryer in there, and there's not going to be a fryer in there. So everything's either going to be grilled, done in the oven, or in a saute pan. So that's one of the reasons why my partner, Chris, the designer, decided to switch up the sign, because the other one was more of like a pizza sub shop parlor, and we're going for more of a restaurant. It's going to be beautiful inside. A lot of the wall coverings are going to have acoustic value. You're going to feel like you're in an Italian restaurant when you're in there. The bar's bigger. That's another one of the recommendations I've been hearing, is the bar was very small before. It was only four or five seats.
Yep.
And people our age are looking for a place to hang out.
Right.
So that was, you know, it was apparent that most people were looking for a restaurant. I think there's a lot of pizza places around here, carry-out places. So
Sure.
that's one of the reasons why my partner and the designer decided to go in another direction.
So your menus, your business card, like everything will have this exact same thing?
Yes,
Okay.
yes.
That's different then.
Is the interior going to be Broadway themed? Is that what you're going for? Are you going for more of a classier
No, yeah,
element to?
it'll definitely be, how can I say it, Italian but modern,
Okay.
more of a modern Italian look. I wouldn't say high-end, but it's definitely not dinerish, you
Okay.
know.
Because Broadway to me doesn't mean classy necessarily.
It's going to be very modern looking in there, different.
Gotcha. Tony, if I may ask, just to go back to Commissioner Wallace, is that your logo?
Yes.
That is your logo?
Yeah, yeah. The other one was the logo, and then when the designer
Changed it.
when the designer took over, you know, having four of us, it was tough to make decisions.
Understood.
So we decided, you know, let's hire a professional designer, help us design the restaurant, the menu,
Right.
the way the menu looks, the logo, and that's, you know, that's where they went to.
Right. Gotcha. With that, and I always go back to the code when I have, you know, questions or those sorts of things. So as mentioned before, our code addresses signage in 112-11. And kind of tipping toward the town attorney here, you knew this was coming. As I look through and I study that with regard to every sign application, the signage code is very objective. And what I mean by that, it's very detailed on size, depth, materials, the variety and types. To my knowledge, and including the design guidelines within the town for the historic district, there's no, and again, unless I'm wrong, there's no ability for this planning commission to make a decision with regard to a sign application based on subjective considerations. In other words, 7 of us here, 3 of us like it, 4 of us don't. You understand what I'm saying?
Yes.
So fundamentally, this guides us with regard to what the sign must comport to, and I believe I'm hearing from the town staff that it comports to our code. And unless there is a subjective evaluation that we're allowed to apply, we have to look beyond that and just see if it follows the code. Am I incorrect?
You are correct. Now, I didn't scrub the 112-11 for coming here, but and there might be some provision in there that allows some sort of qualitative evaluation, but not from memory.
Yep, yeah. The only entry would guide us any close to a subjective evaluation, Tony, would be in the case where in the rehabilitation of the historic district, it talks about national or like a McDonald's going in there, we would have leeway then to adjust their logo sign because we don't want a big golden arch on the front of that building.
Right.
Kind of thing. But that's
Glad I left the yellow out.
that's not applicable here. So I think we've given this a good wire brush, and again, welcome. I'm eager to see your restaurant get in there. I've been to Woodbine, and that's hugely successful and enjoyable over there.
Thank you.
So unless commissioners have any further input, I'm open to a motion with regard to the application for the sign for Tony Pazzo LLC.
Mr. Chair, I'll make a motion.
Go ahead.
I'd like to make a motion to approve the Tony Pazzo signage application.
I'll second.
The motion's been made and seconded, and is there any further discussion before a vote? Not hearing any further discussion. All those in favor of approval of the Tony Pazzo LLC sign application signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? The motion has passed for sign approval. Welcome again, Tony.
I want to thank everybody, and I promise you, you'll be proud to the new restaurant in Mount Airy. We're going to do a great job with it. Thank you all for letting us be here. Appreciate it.
My understanding too is that you guys are open 7 days a week.
Well, in the beginning, we'll be closed on Monday in the beginning,
Okay.
so we can take a breather. I'm sure we're going to be very busy.
Consistent with a number of,
I'm sorry?
and that's consistent with the way a number of our local businesses.
Yeah, but eventually we'll get open on Monday. We just need to get in there and get settled in.
Okay. Just
Yeah,
good to hear.
lunch and dinner every day. Yep.
Got you.
Am I good?
Yeah.
Thank
you're
you.
good.
I'm going to get back to work.
Thank you.
You're welcome to stay.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, thank you.
Yes, sir. Our next agenda item is introduction and discussion of an possible approval of a final plat. This plat is registered as M-23-0012 King Sports Construction LLC. This final plat is requesting, this approval is for a final plat and a final subdivision of the Lot 15B Bravo of the Twin Arch Business Park located at 2310 Backacre Circle. As I understand it, Mr. Thompson, you're representing the applicant?
I am. Their daughter was married last weekend, had a destination wedding, so they are not back yet.
Good for them, good for them. Well, welcome.
Welcome.
Welcome back to Mount Airy also.
Haven't seen
It's
in a long time, Mr. Thompson.
It's a long drive from Myrtle Beach, isn't it?
No, not Myrtle, but
Or down there.
West Airy,
Let's
yeah.
say down there, right. And as we usually do, if I could turn to the town staff for a quick background and a recommendation regarding this application.
Sure, 1 second. My packet got out of order, so I apologize. Nope, I'm looking at the wrong one. Sorry. There we go. Thank you. Here we go.
John, on your large map, just in terms of geography, can you identify in Backacre Circle, you know, the portion of that
Sure.
would be dedicated to this plat?
Sure, if you look in the top right-hand corner of the site,
Yep.
vicinity map, this is the largest parcel that remains currently. It's
Okay.
15-plus acres,
What I thought.
right along the eastern side of Backacre Circle. Brittany Manor is off to the right, farther east. So again, looking at the site plan, I'll zoom in a little bit on the projector so that I think the citizens are able to see it from home. The reduction of the parcel is being subdivided to create a 6.999 acre parcel, Lot 15B, which will be where King Sports LLC will have their business out of. They're currently operating their turf recycling facility out of that parcel. The subdivision will also create a large parcel, which is 9.2225 acres, that is being deeded to the town, which is this honeycomb section on the plan, and that is a forest conservation easement that's currently under easement. The Kings will also be retaining parcel B, which is a stormwater management pond, which is 1.8633 acres. There will be a access easement for the town or its, or a client of the town to be able to observe and maintain, or not maintain, but observe and analyze the pond if there's any failures or if there's a need to access the pond for inspection. This easement will be a complete easement that'll run from Twin Arch Road, or Backacre Circle Road, excuse me, all the way to the pond. There is a current easement, access easement that's been recorded with Lot 15 previously. That's going to be extinguished, and then a new complete easement will be recorded as part of this record plat. And I talked to Mr. Thompson about this morning, that that'll be required as part of this subdivision and the recordation of this subdivision.
Okay.
John, is this next to Goddard? Is Goddard to the right of it?
Yeah, so Goddard is actually up along this parcel up here.
Okay.
Yeah,
On around.
So it's as you come down
yeah.
and it goes back up, it's
Okay.
right there?
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah.
There's houses.
This
that
might be
see-
Goddard. I can't read that. Is that Goddard? Okay, that is Goddard. Thank you, whoever, Ron's got the pointer.
It's in the middle of the.
So it is right against Goddard, but again, with the forest conservation easement that's here, it's actually, would be blocking that at some point, 20 years from now, when the forest conservation easement grows out to full potential. But yeah, so Goddard would be here, Backacre Circle, or Brittany Manor, I think the entrance is right about here or so.
Yep. And John, we've already started planting trees.
Yeah, it's already under forest conservation easement, and yeah, you'll see all the little green tubes that are out there that have trees growing in them.
Actually, I believe forest conservation was finally approved by the county after a 3-year planting period. So it's now done.
Moving ahead. Okay.
And John, staff recommendation on this application?
My recommendation was to,
Conditional approval?
yep, excuse me, let me get to my page there. Let me see your staff report, because mine is misplaced again, I apologize. Again, staff is recommending that the planning commission grant conditional approval. This final subdivision plat for Lot 15B, Twin Arch Business Park, Section 4 for King Sports Construction LLC, with the following conditions of approval: that all town and county comments must be addressed before recording the final plat. Provide all legal documents and all easements to be recorded simultaneous with this record plat.
And so, Mr. Thompson, do you have anything to add to the staff on this application?
No, we concur with the recommendation. This came about actually in working with the town. They wanted to take over the open space, parcel A, and create more open space for the town, which also eliminates any potential of the owner of 15 trying to buy it out and create more development. So it preserves it for the town.
See. Turning now to any public comment from either adjacent businesses or perhaps residents of the community nearest this location, which I believe would be Brittany Manor,
Correct.
around Backacre Circle. An opportunity for any of those individuals to speak to this application. Seeing none. And with the staff report and recommendation, is there a motion before discussion?
Just need a motion to discuss, right?
Motion to approve or disapprove, and we'll have a discussion after it's seconded.
Okay, I'll make a motion to approve this final subdivision plat for Lot 15B. Do you want to read the whole thing? Twin Arch Business Park, Section 4 of King Sports Construction LLC, with the following conditions of approval. All town and county comments must be addressed before recording the final plat. Provide all legal documents and all easements to be recorded simultaneously with this record plat.
Is there a second for that motion?
I'll second.
Commissioner Bynek seconds the motion. It's now open to discussion. Any commissioner wish to discuss this application further or concerns?
I have one question.
Commissioner
Mr. Thompson?
Vita?
Thank you. There was an old farmhouse on the King property. Is that still there? Is there still a tenant in that?
There are no tenants in the Doc Foles former house. There was, when we started this process well over a year ago, a tenant in the town gave an opportunity for that person and family to stay through the school year. They have relocated to another location. It's strictly office.
Gotcha. Thank you. That's all I have.
Commissioner Butts, did you have?
No, I'm fine.
I have one question, and that is the open space deeding or transfer of the open space area to the town is a town council approval. Begins here, I believe, with this subdivision plan. So ultimately, the passing of the open space proposed in this is a town council deed transfer approval. In deed transfers to the town's ownership, it's not unusual that for industrial zone districts, there is a environmental site assessment phase 1 conducted in order to be sure that if there are any historical or current contaminants that may affect or impact groundwater or soil, that assessment provides assurance to the town and protects the town once the deed is transferred and now under their ownership. So I just simply ask, are you familiar with an ESA phase 1?
We are with them. I'm familiar with it. I'm comfortable down there. There isn't, with it becoming forest conservation planted. It was always non-usable property for the Falls.
Okay. Introducing that idea as a further possible condition, and I caution, it's a possible condition. Is there a comment from the staff with regard to that, either Barney or John, or maybe the town attorney with the idea that to give the town assurance when it reaches council decision, there's been a good look at any environmental impacts because it now becomes town land and a responsibility for the town. Any thoughts on that?
I would defer to Tom or to Barney.
So I'll start. Basically, we don't do it for all conveyances and dedications of public space. But anytime we are acquiring property of any size, magnitude, particularly where we suspect there may have been some activity in the past, we always do an ESA phase 1. And the reason is because when you purchase property that is contaminated, whether it be ground or soil, soil or groundwater, you are strictly liable for that contamination. There is a defense, however, for a good faith purchaser, bona fide purchaser without knowledge. And the way you demonstrate that you are such and can take advantage of that defense is to have done an ESA phase 1 that hopefully comes back clean. So particularly, as you've said, for industrial properties, we tend to do it or require it. So,
understood. And the appropriate town staff recipient of such a report would probably be Barney, the town engineer, for evaluation. Is that fair? Okay. Okay. Any other discussions on the motion or conditions of the motion? Would there be consideration before we go to a vote of amending the motion to add the extra third condition with regard to conducting an ESA at applicant's expense, delivering a favorable ESA phase 1 report to the town engineer prior to the deed transfer approval by the council? Is that good wording? Good enough? Okay? And so the motion was made by Commissioner Hatley, so she would have to amend it.
Okay, so I will amend my motion to add a third condition, delivery of a, how would we say, clean ESA Phase 1 report? Okay, so delivery of a Phase 1 ESA report to the town. Good? Okay.
It's thorough.
So restatement of the motion before a vote is, the motion is now amended. Oh, we need a second of that amendment. Yes, so do we have a second of that amendment?
I'll second.
Commissioner Butts seconds the amended. I'll restate the motion before we have a vote. The motion is to grant conditional approval of this final subdivision plat for Lot 15B, Twin Arch Business Park, Section 4 for King Sports Construction LLC with the following 3 conditions of approval. All town and county comments must be addressed before recording the final plat. Second, providing all legal documents and all easements to be recorded simultaneously with this record plat. Third, the applicant provide a Phase 1 environmental site assessment, ESA, for the parcel A prior to requesting town council approval of the deed transfer. With the motion stated, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? The motion passes as stated. Mr. Thompson, you might as well just make yourself comfortable. We're now moving on to item 7 on the agenda. This is introduction and discussion for possible approval of the concept plan, annotated as S22-0036, King Sports Construction LLC, request approval of the concept site development plan for Lot 15C of the Twin Arch Business Park, same address, 2310 Back Acre Circle. And I'll start again with staff report and recommendation.
Yeah, so again, this is the Dock Full property. This is the remainder, 15C, after the record plat that we just spoke about. Again, as you can see, the applicant is showing 3 new buildings currently. If you remember correctly, building number 2, I think it is right here. This is the building that was brought to the Planning Commission prior for approval. Yes,
Sorry,
sir.
John, do you mind if I stop you right there?
Hey, go ahead.
Mine says Lot 15B on my map.
Understand that, so there's a discrepancy. When it comes to final plan, it will be 15C, because there's been multiple subdivisions of this parcel, and that's how we track how many subdivisions have happened.
Thank you.
But I apologize.
No, don't be.
They were printed prior to,
Make sure I had the right thing.
yeah, no worries. Thank you. Again, so this was, building number 2 was the one that was, if you remember correctly, was they started demolishing an existing building, and stop work was put on them. They then came in and asked for approval to erect the current building, and I think initially was denied. They came back in a second time, and I think the interpretation was that we would allow the erection of that building if they move forward with a site development plan, which is what is in front of you today as a concept site development plan. Again, the second building is the one that was already approved, and I think Mr. Thompson said, and I don't know if you drove by today, Ron, I didn't get an opportunity, that this is being erected or is completed currently.
It is enclosed. It's enclosed. I would guess they're close to final permits.
Final UNO possibly. And then again, so building 1 would be the larger building over here, which is going to be a flex industrial space to have multiple suites in there to be rented out to individuals. Again, the owners would retain the building and would be renting out spaces throughout the building.
Including a restaurant, I understand.
It could be up to, it could be a restaurant. From my understanding, they can have a restaurant through the code.
It was in the application that a possible restaurant was,
Not right now, no. I don't believe
okay.
there is in this one, unless I've made an error on the plan. But
By
there
code,
was in Lot 16, a potential for a restaurant that they put off.
Okay.
Right. And again, the third and final building is another warehouse storage building that's towards the southeast of the parcel,
Okay.
which is the other rectangle with the tractor trailer storage parking spots out here. Again, the current plan does provide adequate parking for this site development plan. It's 124 spaces. Required was 124. Again, it does have a fire hydrant located on the property as well. That was an extended water line when they abandoned the existing well and septic systems on here. They ran a 6-inch line, I think it is, to the property to, in preparation of development of the site. Again, it does have 2 main access. The first access, I think, which will probably be off of Backacre Circle, will clearly come up in front of the new building between Lot 14B, which you just saw, which is right to the south here. A portion of 15 did go into 14, I guess about a year and a half ago or so. And again, there was a lot of existing mismatched paving on the property, and the intentions are to create impervious parking over some of it, and also repaving all of it as part of the site development plan. And I am recommending approval of the concept site plan conditionally. And I can read the 5 conditions if you'd like me to.
Yeah, please go ahead for the public.
So again, the staff recommendation and action is staff recommends that the Planning Commission grant conditional approval of the concept site plan for Lot 15C, Twin Arch Business Park, Section 4 of King Sports Constructions, with the following 5 conditions of approval. All town and county comments must be addressed before final approval is granted or any grading permit is approved or signed off by the town staff, town of Mount Airy staff. Provide all legal documents, easements, PWAs, and bonding prior to any grading permit, building permit approval. All related materials to the recycling of the turf fields to be stored in waterproof bags or stored under cover from exposure to the weather. The understanding is that no residential use will be allowed on this parcel moving forward with this change of use. And all existing well and septic systems would need to be abandoned, capped, and inspected by the Carroll County Health Department prior to the town of Mount Airy. Provide the town of Mount Airy with the report from licensed well driller and the Carroll County Health Department.
Okay. Mr. Thompson, anything to add to the application?
Thank you. Yes, a few things. The improvements that have been done on the site to date, the extension of the water line, which was much longer than what was in the initial site plan. The owners worked with the town engineer to extend it farther into the site. They worked with the town engineer for the paving that's out there today for it. We're at a point where we finally got our concept stormwater management approval, which allows for us to roll in here for a concept plan approval. Therefore, then we can continue with the more detailed engineering required for the site. I will state that the well was abandoned a long time ago. I think the documentation's in the town hall, but I'll find it in our files and resubmit it along with the septic systems were also abandoned in order for, abandoned, the tanks are broken in place, and then we ran a new sewer line in for the 2 homes under permit. So we're compliant right now with everything on the site and look forward to taking it to final site design.
Thank you.
Ron, question. We're seeing a number of requests tonight
Bill, could you pull your mic just closer to your mouth? It's hard for
All right.
Deborah to listen to it later.
We're seeing a number of development requests, approval requests tonight. Overall, looking forward, what would be the preferred development timeframe by your group?
Depends on how quickly I can get final stormwater management approval. Quite frankly, the reason that you have two projects stacked together is convenience for me to travel one time for it. I would think that towards the fall, we would be back in for final, hopefully, final site plan approval. Again, it really hinges on stormwater management. We've gone through all of the environmental water resources, all of their review in terms of materials, site usage, and gotten their approvals for the plan to date. So it's just a question of, we've got our concept plan approvals for landscaping, forest conservation, everything. It's really the more detailed work is with stormwater management and scheduling it for our process.
Okay.
I would anticipate that once it's approved, PWA is, once this is approved, signed, and the PWA gets submitted and approved, more than likely, my recommendation will be that they build out the 6,000 square foot warehouse, which then puts the site plan, I guess I can't use the word grandfathered anymore, but it is, then it can sit there forever for the final building. Of course, right now, we'll talk about the 14B, but the building market going to the banks right now, getting financing is rather difficult.
If I may, before we have any more commissioner interaction, if I could just ask anybody here from the public wishes to comment on the application. Could you just stand and identify yourself, please?
Yes. My name is Carl Munder at 2002 Fieldbrook Lane. Quick question for Ron, just more of a clarification point, nothing against the project or anything. I noticed that a lot of the permeable pavement is for parking and stuff, and that seems to be I want to say the choice a lot now for stormwater management is permeable paving. Is there any type of maintenance schedule that's going to be required by the town or anything for this, and records submitted or part of the PWA?
Not by the town.
Okay.
The town has no responsibility for inspection of private stormwater management facilities. That is a Carroll County function. Every 3 years, they do their inspection of it, whether it's the pond back there, the microbiome facility, or the permeable pavement. The town has, and in the documents, it says town or representatives, Carroll County representatives.
Cool, thank you. I just want to make sure that it was being checked later. Okay, thank you, Ron.
Any other public comment or questions on this application? Seeing none, back to the commissioners, and thank you for that. Are there any other commissioner questions? Commissioner Wallace?
What is the primary use of that property going to be? Like, what type of business?
Well, it is the headquarters for King Sports Construction. So their equipment is housed there. Their office now is in the existing house until such time as the larger building is constructed. They may, obviously, for a size for the larger building, you would have it rental spaces, much like you see out at Twin Ridge Professional Park out there, where somebody can come in and rent 5,000 or 10,000 square feet or whatever they need for it.
Will they be conducting any of the artificial turf recycling on that property?
They do now recycle it down. It's actually down get my pointer corrected here now. It's right down in this area here.
The bunker.
This is a shed. It's a lower level. So right now, there are no rolls of turf. They've all either been recycled or taken and shipped out there. So the way that their process works, which was described before, is that when it's picked up, much of the rubber beads are separated when it's stripped off of the field and bagged so that it can be used again. When it's brought here, it's wrapped, and then prior to maybe shipping out to, it seems to be the West takes a lot of it these days because of water shortage, it'll be in a proprietary machine, shaken once more, and the beads collected for it.
So you're talking about the actual plastic carpet? Did they bring that back with them here too?
It's brought back here, and it's generally rolled in a plastic wrap in order to hold it together. And this does not allow storage outside. When they initially came on site, there was somewhere back, right about in here, I think,
Concrete bunkers.
concrete bunkers, but they've fallen down. So, and they're not allowed to store outside anymore.
Okay. I just wanted to kind of point out, I don't know if the other planning commissioners are aware that there is PFAS in those materials. And it's just a large amount of toxic waste. And there's really no regulation surrounding any of that right now. So just wanted to bring that to everyone's attention.
Again, the majority of the pellets are removed from the the turf when it's taken up, and it's shaken at that point. So 95% of it is removed and bagged then,
Before it gets to,
before it comes to the site.
But the part that has
That's
the
rubber.
PFAS is the actual carpet.
The
It's
turf.
not necessarily, I mean, the rubber and all that's toxic too, but it's that the grassy carpet has the PFAS in it, so.
But that's stored undercover so it doesn't get wet and it's not stored long. Typically, it comes in during the, call it the construction season, and goes out during the winter.
Any other questions?
What's the average storage time for it?
Less than 6 months. I mean, it was empty when I drove out there today, and we're starting the construction season. So over the winter, they've removed and processed them and shipped them out.
Are they processing it there at the site then, or is it contained in
By
another?
processing, there's one last, goes through the machine one last time to shake out any additional rubber pallets. It's rolled back up, put on a tractor trailer, and shipped out.
So we still have the potential for contamination?
Not from the, I don't believe you have the potential for contamination from the actual turf itself because it's put back under roof so that it's not sitting out exposed to leach into the ground.
I just don't, there's no 100% guarantee that there's not contamination.
I can't make a 100% guarantee on anything.
Right, exactly.
Any other questions, commissioners? Ida? Commissioner Ida? You got ahead of you.
On sheet 5 of 11, there's a detail H6 on-site concrete washout structure. It looks like it's got a liner with some wood elements to it. Is that going to be on the property too?
That's a required sediment control feature. When you build a building and are pouring concrete, you must install so that when the concrete truck is done and they rinse out their truck, it doesn't go into the ground. It goes in, dries up, and is removed.
Yeah, I was curious if it was going to be permanent on-site for these
No.
other rental spaces for construction equipment or something.
No, just for when they,
For the construction itself.
yeah.
Is that a solid floor or what type of flooring?
You have to put plastic down. You dig a pit, put plastic in it so that it's contained. solid piece of plastic. So when they dump it in there, it does not leach out. The water evaporates out of the concrete left over. It's really paste, quite frankly, that's left. And then it's removed.
It's still leach, okay.
No, it doesn't leach. I mean, MDE regulates that as a requirement, as opposed to having them wash it and dump it on the ground.
I have a question. So I guess I was under the understanding that the shaking of the mats, does that occur in a building or does that occur out on the parking lot?
It's in the building.
So it's contained within inside of an enclosed structure?
Yeah, the shed in the back,
That shed is not enclosed, if my understanding is correct.
enclosed by 3 sides.
3 sides, okay? Right, so the whole front bay where all the entrances are open.
Correct.
Any other
That's what
questions?
Kim was trying to get to. Yep.
Commissioner Hadley next.
My question mainly is to Barney. Hearing all of this, do you have any concerns?
Well, I'd share some of the same concerns. I mean, like John is pointing out, I mean, you have a 3-sided building. If it's not all coming out the front, then it's contained. But if you're allowing it to come out the front, go down the drain, then that's a concern. So I haven't observed that process myself.
I will point out that the current site plan permits this use.
Commissioner O'Malley, I believe you had interest. Yeah.
I had actually a question for Tom. In this, it's talking a lot about that there's nothing required for open space because it's an industrial use. Could you clarify about open space requirements in any industrial use?
Mr. McCarron, do you need a copy of the letter to just review?
So they're probably referring to 98-23B, open space development shall be required, town of Mount Airy and shall apply, along with the provisions of this section, to all residential zones, mixed use of the state, special exception residential uses in commercial zones, and any development with a residential component located in the downtown zone, in accordance with the requirements set forth in this bill. So obviously, absent any residential use,
Right.
and given that this is an industrial site, I would say that, without further research, that is a correct statement.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Questions for clarity? If I may offer a few questions. On map sheet 2 of 11, if you could please reference that, and I'm going to point to it just to help. There's text that says "to be removed." Is that alluding to a fence or some utility line?
I am not sure. I've noticed a couple typos on the plan.
Okay.
That when I do into my final site plan review, there are some things that need to be cleaned up for consistency.
Okay. Second question is, I believe I know where, but for certainty, one of the entrances has above-ground fuel storage tanks. I believe it's the upper entry, is that correct?
Correct.
Correct, and those are still there.
Those are still there. They have a concrete containment structure
Right.
and a canopy over the top,
Okay,
permitted through Carroll County and the town of Mount Airy, inspected by both.
got you. Okay, any further questions? Before we go to a motion request on this, and in a way addressing some of the concerns expressed by fellow commissioners with regard to the material being handled on this site, in the APFO code that guides us in a concept plan application, specifically 25-4, in addition to the town staff conducting the APFO, which I believe was a favorable outcome, to tail on to Commissioner O'Malley, the park and open space element of the 7-phase APFO was not necessary, not applicable, as explained by the town attorney. But bottom line, the APFO was completed. The assessment certified that all those other 6 were adequate for this concept plan. 25-4 also has 2 interesting requirements of this commission, and the wording is that we shall. In other words, it's not a may, it's not a can you think of, or it's optional. It's a shall, and it's a rather hard shall in regard to the area of making sure that this concept plan and the applicant complies with all governmental environmental standards and provides the commission that assurance. And so this connects to some of the concerns here with regard to the material being handled. This may be among the first planning commissions that have stressed this point in a concept plan review and evaluation, but nonetheless, it's in the code. And so the first question I would ask is, if there was a conditional approval based upon the presentation of that assurance to meet all governmental environmental standards prior to the next step, which is final plan, if I'm not mistaken, what would be your reaction to providing something that lends toward that assurance to this commission?
We get, the town receives approval letters from Carroll County Bureau of Resource Management after they have reviewed the plan in detail, that it meets the requirements of the County Water Resource Manual. So I go through those reviews. I have my battles. I don't win them. And once we have complied with the county code for environmental, we then, actually, one of the reasons we're here tonight is we have an approval from Bureau of Resource Management, Water Resources. We have to get from Carroll County approvals on water resource management, stormwater management, we get landscaping, and we get forest conservation. All of the environmental aspects for this, letters have to be provided. Now, they've given us, call it concept plan approval. Final site plan goes back to them for additional letters to come back for final approval. So everybody gets another crack at the plan from the environmental group in Carroll County.
So I think what I gathered from you is that a conditional approval that includes the provisioning of such documents to the satisfaction of the town would be in alignment with this paragraph of the code.
Correct. I don't want to go out of order, but there's one thing I wanted to correct, if I could.
Please.
So recall we said that there's no open space requirement under 9823 for an industrial property. But also recall that under the APFO, when we are in deficit, which we are, any development has to get a waiver from this body in order to proceed with development. And that includes by specific provision under G2, industrial property. Says until such time as the town's inventory of parks and open space meets the 3 acres per 100-person standard. It's the definition of adequacy. The Planning Commission may waive strict application of the park and open space adequacy standard, provided that each development project, including any industrial, commercial, residential, et cetera, development that is granted a waiver under this subsection provides at least 3 acres of park and open space per 100 persons. Now, this development, without introducing any new residences, meets that threshold. But recall that the town council also adopted subsection 3 that goes through a number of standards that this body must weigh in determining whether to grant a waiver. It is not a waiver that is of right when we are inadequate. So I know that's a bit complicated, but while the development itself does not require open space, that is not to say that it is not subject to the waiver review as set forth in our code.
And if I may add, and recent code change requires that in the process of the commission considering a waiver, there are guidelines by which we must follow, and then, using the words in the code, memorialize and document that review against those guidelines and produce that document.
That is correct.
I see. Okay.
I do want to mention also, of course, the plan we just saw, the applicant is donating 9 acres. 8.3 actually is open space. It's passive, but it is open space. Not to say they still don't need the waiver. We still have to go through that process, and they're requesting that waiver. But this applicant is providing open space for this project.
Correct. Right. So procedurally, Tom, I believe the waiver has to be considered first because the APFO in total addresses the open space, and that has to be done as a part of the concept plan review. So does this commission need to take up the guidelines, take up the review according to the guidelines in order to get to a decision on the waiver prior to considering the concept plan?
It's generally done at the same time. I think what this envisions is when one applies for an approval of a concept plan and submits the concept plan, the developer also provides a specific request for a waiver, number one, and sets forth its justification following the factors that are set forth in subsection 3. So it's all evaluated at the time of concept approval. I would say it can be done in one meeting. I don't think, you need separate meetings for it. But just as you're evaluating, for instance, water allocation, you're also evaluating this, as well as the 2 subsections, subsection C and D, I think it is, that you were just mentioning.
Correct.
That probably needs to be addressed as well, if we're going by the code.
Well, since we brought that up and we're talking about open space, I think quality of open space comes to, like, we know that they're donating the space, but what can it be used for? Can it be used for a park? Can it be used for a playground? Can it be used for a baseball field?
It's under a forest conservation easement, so no development can happen on that parcel.
So there would be no football field or softball field or pickleball courts?
Not on that parcel.
It would be a recharge, essentially.
A recharge zone?
Before it was donated, was it buildable land?
I'm not positive that, I know the applicant did come in for subdivision, and I said that wouldn't be acceptable because, again, this development plan has maximized the amount of lots that they're able to have, industrial or residential. So, and that's why they chose to deed it to the town, because I was saying it can't be subdivided for any additional building. So could it be built on? I mean, anything can be built on if you have enough money to, put the infrastructure in to support a wetland construction, but but I don't see us building anything on it.
So the builder could not build on that, is what you're saying, because it was already maximized?
Correct. They've already maximized the subdivision potential.
Gotcha.
It would be inconsistent environmentally to buy out forest conservation, replace it somewhere else, eliminate water recharge area, and then pave it for parking so I can build more, they can build more buildings on top. This is environmentally the best solution for the town.
Yeah.
And I did provide, other than a couple typos, I did provide that request, written request for a waiver
Correct. It's attached.
in this.
It is attached. So let's hold on the,
application.
correct. I saw it, yep. So just hold the thought for a moment, put it in the parking lot, as I often say. There's also a 25-4 code requirement that the commission shall also consider a financial positioning of the project. And I read, the commission shall consider whether, based on projected financial data, revenues to be generated from the building of the proposed development project to include expected tax revenues and impact fees will be sufficient to provide the required services to such project. So again, in the interest of a possible conditional approval of the applicant providing that assurance of financial stability, I'm going to use that word because that's kind of what it sings to me on. What would be your comments on that?
Well, luckily I got a heads-up call to provide some data tonight for you. And I'll address lot 15 and then go to 14. The middle part of this is in terms of financial impact on the town or cost to the town. The town sewer infrastructure was constructed by the developer and is in place. The same with the town water infrastructure was constructed by the developer and is in place, along with the town roadway Backacre Circle. Access to all the industrial property was constructed by the developer. A regional stormwater management facility constructed by the developer. Nothing on a town requirement for costs. There is part of the site plan on-site stormwater management due to changes in the code that they have to address. The PWA requires inspection fees, 8% of certain costs that the town is required to inspect. There's a fee, I haven't costed out but it covers the cost of the town there. There's a water expansion fund, so I'll get into that in a minute there. So for lot 15C, total water sewer permit fees will be, and subject to town engineer review of them, but according to the latest data sheet here from the town, there are basic water fees of $76,500, additional EDU fees of $49,840 for a total of $126,340 impact fees. In addition, you ought to have a water expansion fund, which is somewhere in the neighborhood of $10,000, a little over $10,000 paid to the town at the time the PWA is finalized. Building permit fees, the town would get 50% of what the building permit fee is. Now, I just did the building permit fee based upon the Carroll County sheet this afternoon, and that's another $4,160. So the total fees paid to the town for development on this property, minus any PWA inspection fees, because I don't know what that would be there, is $140,894.25.
Okay.
Pretty good haul for the town.
And so,
And town incurs no cost on anything.
understood. And so I asked for that list of fees and revenues and according to 25-4C. Would that suffice to provide the commission sufficient information?
It's up to the commission, but I would probably say yes, in general, at least what I heard, probably ask for something in writing
Right.
as a condition.
Right.
Well, you'd require it as part of the final site plan anyway.
Okay, so going back then to the waiver as to whether the commission can conduct according to the guidelines, which is what we're required to do, and memorialize or document that waiver following the guidelines. Do I have any input from the commissioners as to whether we attempt to do that tonight as a part of this submission? Or we defer this action until we accomplish that, commission?
I think we need to defer it right now until we have further.
Okay, any other comments with regard to?
May I comment on that?
Let me get the other commissioners right quick. Any other commissioner comment on the handling of the commission's guidelines for the waiver and certifying it as a part of this concept plan submission?
I don't have any problems with doing that tonight, since we have gathered that the quality of the open space is essentially going to be a recharge zone and conservation. There's nothing else we can do with it, but we can add it to the inventory of the town's deficit upon the transfer of it.
Do we have the guidelines in front of us to review?
I don't have them distributed.
That would be my concern, is
that's
that,
the problem.
how do you know?
If I may, the letter goes through A through D, directly out of the town code for open space of what has to be contained in a waiver for it.
Yeah, no, I understand that. But I'm also trying to stress here that I believe, if I'm not mistaken, this is the first occasion that this commission will apply those guidelines. And I'm just kind of a doing it right kind of guy, Mr. Thompson. And I'm a bit uncomfortable in hurrying my fellow commissioners through that first exercise.
It's difficult to do the concept plan approval if you can't get through the APFO and concept stage approval.
Totally
And quite
agree.
frankly, all the effort to get here would be, we provide you with the material. You should be able to approve it tonight. I mean, it would be patently unfair to postpone an approval, particularly when we're giving you over 8 acres of open space.
I'm not going to cross swords with regard to the rapidity of us approving and reviewing this concept plan. I am concerned about us following the code with each of these commissioners understanding what the waiver of open space means. To the extent that the council actually added legislation such that when that action is done, we do it with great rigor. There's very few guidelines to this commission found elsewhere in our code. And open space is a precious item within our town's deliberations. It really is. And so I want to handle it appropriately. I want to be fair to the applicant. I have examined items where we can condition the approval based upon the provisioning of things like compliance with governmental environmental standards, compliance with financial stability to provide the services that are in the application. We now are at a point where we have to consider how do we legitimately apply the code guidelines to waiving open space. That's where we are as a part of the APFO. So I think we've thoroughly examined this application. We do have an issue with the commission approving a waiver for the portion of the APFO on open space according to the guidelines. I think I've summarized it. So I am open to a motion from a commissioner with regard to this concept plan application.
I have a question for Tom. Under the recommendations and actions, would it be, I don't know if okay is the right word, but if we added another action regarding the open space waiver to say yes or no for the approval of that, or?
So you're asking, can you conditionally approve the concept plan
Pending a commission,
grant of waiver under G3 or whatever it is?
correct.
Yeah, you could probably do that. I don't see anything in the code that prevents that.
And we would take,
It's the first time that you're applying it.
right, and to be fair, John, I'm thinking ahead then, would it be fair then, because that's on us as a condition. Is that accurate? I mean, that's,
Correct.
right? So the condition of this conditional approval has elements that are on the applicant. We're going to enumerate one that's on us to complete.
That's correct.
And all of this is prior to getting to final plan.
Correct.
And if any of these, we fall short, the applicant falls short, we don't get the final plan.
That's correct.
We don't see it. Okay.
I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
So at this point, because of my biggest concern with approving this is that the three sides to where they're shaking the material or
Right.
running it through the machine, we still could have leakage. We have a well that is highly contaminated that we're pulling into our town because of the contaminations that's right below it.
Understood. Yeah.
So
Would the condition that they provide the assurance that we spoke to earlier, that they're meeting all governmental environmental standards, that's exactly the wording, applicable governmental environmental standards, would those documents for our review at the final plan stage be sufficient to address your concern?
I would not approve this at this point until we understand the full scope of this. Because we have such issues with PFAS in our groundwater already, and that we have a well that's highly contaminated that is now we're having to provide water to, that I do not feel comfortable with moving forward with this plan until we have a complete understanding. And I need to have the code in front of me to move forward as well.
Commissioner Walls?
So a couple of questions. When you're getting these approvals from MDE, does the state understand what the property is being used for?
It's listed in the plan, what it's being used for. And again.
I mean, is it explicit? Because
It was in the original subdivision that was approved there, that it would be used for turf fields.
And what regulation does MDE have over this? Because I know that there's House Bill 457 that still hasn't passed through the Senate to regulate this type of material, right? It's chain of custody regulation on the materials. And so I'm just wondering, like, are they actually even looking at this? Because according to, documentation that I've seen, I don't think there really is a regulation on it yet. So I'm just curious, like.
I don't believe anybody in the reviews today looks at what is the impact on PFAS. I have not seen any comment come back in any letter.
Okay.
And, the representative would be Carroll County Bureau of Resource Management, because they call MDE in
Right.
when appropriate, and I haven't seen a comment.
Yeah, I think what I'm getting to is just that you can get an assurance that it's meeting current standards, but it doesn't necessarily mean it's going to cover our concerns, because there's not really anything on the books for that at this time.
The specifics.
Right.
Yeah.
Mr. Chair, again.
Yeah, go ahead.
Ron, has MDE visited the site since it's been in operation?
Not that I'm aware of. There hasn't been, I guess, cause for them to visit the site.
Okay.
I'm
just curious about
Yeah,
evaluating with the open.
I would have
building.
probably heard from the client if they had been there. but I haven't heard anything.
Mr. Chair, I have a quick question.
Commissioner Hadley, go ahead.
So the building's open on 3 sides, right? Is there a reason why it's never been 4 sides, or is it just?
4 sides, we got to provide parking.
Oh. So if you
It
left
becomes a warehouse at that point.
Okay, so you
It's
just,
no longer a shed. If you want to waive the parking for it, fine, but that's one of the bigger issues here. You create more impervious area, more issue on water recharge, everything that goes along with all of those. Let's start sliding down the environmental scale with what you asked for.
right, well, and then,
sorry.
sorry, my next question was for Barney. I would very much like your input. Should we add something in there? Is there a way to monitor the PFAS that can possibly get drained from that section, or? Because you're saying they're working with Maryland Department of the Environment, and I know you've talked about, meeting their standards before, and you're fine with that.
Carroll County.
Oh, sorry, Carroll County.
I don't want to infer that.
Sorry, I had MD in my head for a second. But you're okay with their standards. But do you have any other input or, I don't know, that could sort of help us process this?
I think you're on the right track, but like Heather has pointed out, I mean, I don't think the regulation's there yet. I think it's going to come, and then when that comes, then they'll have to, just like we still have PFAS in our water. We know the regulation is just coming around, but we still have a few years to, put the treatment in place.
Right, there's no we can stick a stick in the ground and it'll light up and say the PFAS are coming down the hill or something.
Right.
Like, I don't, there's nothing
Right,
that would help us.
If you were to ask for something that would help ensure that would contain the materials, keep it under shelter, make sure nothing's leaching out into the grass, and the applicant's agreeable to it, then I think you can maybe look for some kind of, acceptance that way,
Okay,
for the meantime.
Commissioner Walls?
thank you.
What is the ground material right outside of that open wall? Is that,
Gravel.
it's gravel, so it's
Compacted
not
gravel.
impervious? So.
Well, Carroll County says gravel is impervious.
Okay.
I'm sorry.
I think we all understand.
I have lost that battle so many times that I just accept compacted gravel is impervious because nothing.
Mr. Thompson, in acquiring all of the governmental, environmental standards, reports, certifications from Carroll County, the state, or whatever, does that require him to have an approved concept plan in order to trigger those reports on this site? Or can he get them if we don't have a decision tonight? Can he still go pursue and get those?
Well, again, he'll be getting approvals through Carroll County through their review of the code.
Right.
He doesn't get anything from MDE or.
But to get those, he doesn't have to have an approved concept plan to trigger their response to him.
No, he
Okay.
should have already received them
Gotcha.
approvals through Carroll County, which gets him to this point here.
Right. What I'm getting at is if we don't decide tonight, we handcuff him because he can't now go get what we want. I don't think that's in play,
I
right?
don't think that's in.
Okay, that's not a consequence
I don't think
if
so.
we don't reach a decision tonight. Okay, all right.
Chair, I have another question for Barney.
Sure.
Would you have a concern, because the Goddard School is so close, if they're doing that type of recycling with that material in an open air where it's has access so close to the children playing outside, like right there? Would that be a concern? Like, is it an environmental concern? Because it's not enclosed when it's being done.
I don't know how much dust is produced with the beads coming off of the turf. I think the open bay side is away from the Goddard School. But that doesn't mean that the wind can't blow around it and, if something was airborne. Goddard School is uphill, so it's not something that's going to drain up, to the Goddard School. So it would only be if there was something airborne.
Okay.
That would be of concern.
So it has a roof, just not a front,
Correct.
is that correct?
Roof, three sides and a roof.
It's like a pole barn.
And a roof.
Pole barn.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's a pole barn.
Mr. Chairman,
Sure, go ahead, Commissioner Butts.
we have raised a number of questions,
True.
some of which we already have answers for, others we don't know for sure. There needs to be more investigation. I think we would be rushing it if we made an overly speedy decision tonight. I would like to give ourselves more time and perspective to do as responsibly as possible what our job is. And for that reason, I'd like to ask for at least a month delay. We need to systematize what are all the issues, concerns we have that need to be nailed down, get the best information and guidance we can get, and given that richer environment of consideration, then we make our decision.
Your comment on this, Mr. Chair?
Let me just make sure just a moment here. Any other commissioner with regard, I value what Commissioner Butts is saying here, and we do need to get to closure on this agenda item. We have other items tonight. Any other comments along the lines of we need more time, or we need more thought, or no more deliberation?
I would agree with
I might agree with Commissioner Butts.
Commissioner Butts.
Okay. One quick comment, Carl?
Comment, clarification maybe on this. Well, if you look at it for another month, you also, while looking at it, you need to take into consideration if you apply standards to the gentleman or the applicant, what standards will you be applying to the gentleman or the applicant? What standards will you be held to? Because the state will not look at a site unless there is a permitted use at that site, which I mean by permitted, if they are doing something that requires a permit by the state. Currently, there, as I believe Ron or Barney has said, there are no current standards for any PFAS contamination. It is an issue, but it's also not what is classified as a point source issue. It is on everything. It's been around since the 1950s. That's what the town is struggling with our wells. It could be coming off of clothes into the septic systems. Our rock or our water table, fractured rock, is much more susceptible to PFAS contamination. So just by eliminating the dust, potentially blowing off a landing, you're not going to stop the PFAS contamination that is already in the soil and the water. It's a non-point source pollution. So that's something you need to consider, that are you putting on the applicant an unfair burden that he cannot be met? Mm-hmm. Because while he can meet some stormwater management, the state delegates to the county. The county says, okay, that's fine. Unfortunately, there's no regulations for PFAS contamination. If it's run off a site, if it's contained in a pond, that might something be that just has to be acceptable. Unfortunately, it's a contaminant. The same thing with like the soil and oil running off of paved surfaces. It gets caught in the stormwater management plan or pond. So you have to take that into consideration, that whatever you put on the applicant needs to be fair.
Understood.
And meetable, and that there is a standard for it. And when the state looks at something, it's local planning, 9 times out of 10. The planning must be, if he gets planning approval for whatever he wants, that's the step one. The state will not, if it's properly approved plan or use under planning and zoning, the state will look at it.
Understood. Thank you. So where I am right now is I see 3 shortcomings with the application presently. I see obviously the shortcoming of us following the guidelines dictating us to provide a waiver of the open space. We have not yet done that, and we certainly have not documented that. Secondly, there are concerns with respect to the environmental issues voiced tonight, and there is a code requirement that the applicant provide the town assurance that it will comply with all 24-C paragraph D concerns regarding complying with governmental environmental standards. And then lastly, as I mentioned earlier, there's the documentation necessary per the code 25-4C with regard to the applicant showing financial stability that we've discussed earlier. And you did provide some data with respect to that already, Mr. Thompson. So I think I've identified, at least in my mind, those three shortcomings with us moving forward tonight. And I've heard words that we want to be kind of careful on this because of all these concerns. And so I would offer a motion to my commissioners unless there's further discussion. And the motion would be, I wish to make a motion to defer the review and approval of the concept plan before us pending, first, the applicant's delivery of the 25-4 paragraph C requirement to the town for review. Second, the applicant delivers the elements of 25-4D with respect to complying with government environmental standards with the specifics as to PFAS concerns. And lastly, we defer based upon the Commission's need to follow the guidelines in the code to grant a waiver for the open space. So it is a defer motion with those three elements. I would just add, John, where would be the right venue and meeting for us to do our job with the waiver? Would that be
I think that would be at the next Planning Commission
the
meeting.
next Planning Commission meeting?
Yep.
Okay, so let's go ahead and put that on the agenda for us to comply with that, unless the commissioner sees a better way for us to do that. I've voiced a motion. I'm looking for a second or thoughts on that motion.
I'll second the motion.
The motion has been seconded by Commissioner Beineck. I open again for discussion by the commissioners. Any requested amendments, changes? If not, I'll restate. The motion is defer the review and approval of the concept site development plan for Lot 15C of the Twin Arch Business Park, pending three conditions: the applicant's delivery of the 25-4C material required, the applicant's delivery of the 25-4D governmental environmental standards compliance, and lastly, the commission using the guidelines to properly approve the waiver for open space. All those in favor of that motion, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed? The motion passes.
Mr. Chair, one question. Do you need me at that meeting when you look at the open space waiver?
I don't believe the guidelines require the applicant to be present. We certainly have your submission, as you indicated earlier, if we want to be advised by how you see it, but I don't think so. But thank you for the offer.
I would have scheduled it, maybe not next month, it depends.
So if I may move us now into item number 8. This is Kingsport's application for a monument sign, flag, and a dedication plaque to be located near the main entrance to Lot 15B. As always, turning to the staff with regard to background and recommendation.
Yes, thank you. So this is again for the King Sports Construction. This is the monument-style sign that'll be at the main entrance at Lot 15C. The applicant is trying to get an approval of this monument sign prior to the final approval of the site plan. And if you turn to page 3 in the application, you'll kind of see a picture of what they're proposing, which is a masonry curved monument-style sign with letters that would have to meet the code. American flag, I think of 30 feet tall. And again, they're also creating a dedication plaque to dedicate to memorialize and honor Doc Fool for his vision to create an industrial park within his land and a residential community. Again, the staff is recommending approval of this monument-style sign for this project, King Sports Construction. Again, the staff recommends the Planning Commission approve the monument sign with the lettering and lighting as stated above. Approval of the dedication plaque to Doc Fool and the flagpole and the flag size stated above. And I can read through that as well if you need me to.
No, yeah, go ahead. You talking about the conditions?
Yeah, 1 second. I'm going to bring up the, so there are no conditions on this. Basically, the only condition is this will have to be part of the 15C final site plan.
Final plan.
So this will have to be shown as a detail on the plan. Even though it's getting approved now, it should be part of that final document.
And just one last question, John, and as far as 112-11 signage regulation, nothing here at odds with that?
Nope, as long as they don't have, no, it meets all the requirements for their frontage, for the size letters they've applied for.
Gotcha.
And ground-mounted signage, not backlit signage for the
And
letters.
Mr. Thompson, your opportunity to elaborate on the application at all?
No, we look forward to approval. I worked to try to clarify from last meeting the
Right.
conflicts in the original application.
Understood. Any public comment? Seeing no public comment. I do have a question with regard to the actual width of the monument sign, because there's conflicting information. I see an application that says 17 feet wide, and then I see a hand-drawn diagram that says 12 feet wide, this one. And then there's a reference in the application that it's only 10 feet wide.
Right.
So we go 17, 12, 10, not sure.
Block wall is 17 feet. The monument sign itself, when you look at, it doesn't cover the entire wall, is 10 feet.
So from the left edge of the K and King to the Essence Sports,
Correct.
that's 10 feet.
Yes.
I got you. And that 10 feet lays onto a 17-foot curved wall.
Curved wall.
Gotcha. Okay. I appreciate that. Just trying to make sure. And again, I'm going to kind of breach a little. Any other discussion before we go to a motion?
I had a question.
Commissioner Bynum?
John, is this matching or somewhat close to what's for Canyon? Is it Canyon Construction?
It's very similar in size.
Very similar.
I guess theirs is, I think, more of a stucco finish.
Right.
I don't think I think this split face block is pleasing enough. I mean, I don't think it's,
Is this also going to be the font and everything? Is this exactly what it will look like as far as the font and the?
I believe so. That's what they submitted, so. No, just black with a white outline, no lighting.
Nothing? Okay.
There might be a ground,
It'll be illuminated
indirect.
from the ground.
indirect illumination.
which is what is in the rest of the industrial park, is ground-mounted lighting.
I have a question, Mr. Chair.
Commissioner O'Malley?
Is the flag going to be lit up?
Well, by flag standards, if you have a flag at night, you have to have, like I do, you have to have some type of ground illumination
That's what I was asking.
up to the flag, or now the new flag poles have a little LED on top so that there is. Flag code standard says if you're going to display the flag at night, it's got to have a light on it,
Yeah, that's what I was
a
asking.
minor type of light.
That's what I was asking.
Yeah.
Will it?
Yes.
Okay.
I will
That was my question.
not allow a flag without a light.
Well, it's either that or I got to take it down, so that's what I'm asking.
Right. That's right. Any other questions? I have a quick question with regard to that particular corner where this monument sign's going up. Is there a relocation of the existing fence in order to fit this in diagonally?
I think they've already moved the fence, put it at an angle.
Okay. Okay. So the application is strictly for the monument sign, the signs on the block, the plaza, paved stones in front of it, and then the flagpole behind it. Is that the total application?
Correct. I believe that the size of the dedication plaque may be just on a little simple
Right.
post
Right.
on the plaza there.
On one end of the curve wall, roughly 2 foot by 3 foot according to the application.
Well, it's actually 16 inches by 24 inches
Oh, even
is
smaller.
what they
Okay.
have.
I got
Picture
you.
of dock full.
I actually haven't seen the placard in the sizes there. I just used a generic size and say not to exceed that.
Gotcha.
So they would be in compliance then.
Okay. Barney, any town engineer issues with this? Don't see any? Great. Okay. Then I'm open to a motion with respect to this application for a monument sign for King Sports at this location to include lettering and a not to exceed 30-foot high flagpole behind it.
Do you want me to read it? Yeah, okay. I'll make a motion to approve the monument sign with the lettering and lighting as stated above, and approval of the dedication plaque to Dr. Full, and the flagpole and flag size stated above.
Okay, motion made. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Commissioner Butts got ahead of you. Seconded by Commissioner Butts.
By a hair, it's okay.
Any further discussion necessary? Not hearing any further discussion. Those in favor of the motion for the monument sign and lettering with a not to exceed 30-foot high flagpole behind it signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed? The motion passes unanimously. Thank you. We are now on item 9.
It's still Kingston.
This is introduction and discussion for possible approval of the final plan registered as S-220035, King Sports Construction LLC. Approval of the final site development plan for Light 14B in the Twin Arch Business Park. And I believe the town staff has provided us with the diagrams and a staff report on this. So again, I'll turn to John for a recap and a staff recommendation.
So I'm a little concerned too, because I think we're going to get in the same position we were with 15 at the end, but we're prepping for that.
I'm kind of smelling that too.
Yeah, so anyway, this is King Sports LLC. This is lot 14C, I think is actually what it is, because if you look at I gave you some additional items as well in your packet that I outlined in blue, the different subdivisions that happened to this parcel, how this parcel grew from 14. So that'll be in the final improvement plans, it'll be corrected at that point. So it is 14C, but moving on from there. So, excuse me. Again, the applicant is requesting a final site development plan approval for establishing a building of 22,400 square feet of interior space. This plan indicates 11,200 square feet of office space on the first floor, and the lower level would provide 11,200 square feet of flex industrial space. And again, if you look at the history, it sort of goes through how we got to where we are today with all the different recordations. Again, looking at APFO certifications for water is adequate. They do have a water allocation. Sewer is adequate as well. Again, residential non-senior housing not applicable to this project because of the schools. APFO, again, is adequate. The current road meets the design standards for this subdivision of this industrial park. Police is approaching inadequate. And the APFO Parks and Open Space is not applicable for this project. Excuse me. Again, the staff is recommending conditional approval of the site development plan for Lot 14, as it says in here, B, but it should be C, of the Twin Arch Business Park, Section 4, subject to the following conditions. All town and county comments must be addressed prior to final approval is granted, or any grading permit is approved or signed off by the town of Mount Airy staff, and provide all legal documents, easements, PWAs, and bondings prior to approval of any grading permit or building permit.
Before I turn to Mr. Thompson for him to add to this application, let me, John, given our earlier discussion with regard to the concept plan and the waiver process for open space, would you consider amending the staff recommendation?
Yes, I would make it well, yeah, I would definitely include the additional open space waiver, the environmental issues, and the financial stability documentation as well to be provided.
Okay.
Again, I almost feel like we're in the same position as we were before. I feel like this is going to have to be postponed pending all those documentations for approval, which would come in May. So I feel like, you know, these recommendations might be modified due to that continuation.
Understood. And before I again turn to the applicant, it would be consistent for us in following our ruling earlier on the concept plan that in this same circumstance with waiving the open space on the final plan per the APFO, we would need to document that similarly?
Well,
Mr. Chair, that's not consistent with the code.
Let me talk to the town attorney.
for final, not concept.
Not concept.
And has already been approved.
Correct.
Subject, and was, I presume APFO reviewed at that time.
It was.
And passed, so I'm not sure the same thing applies here.
And that's where I'm going, because the concept plan was almost exactly a year ago, April 24th of 2023, that the commission looked at the concept plan for this very same application and did the APFO, but at that time, we did not have the requirement for the guidelines for the commission to follow. I mean, you see where I'm going?
Correct.
And so here where we are now in the final plan, what's our obligation in arrears, so to speak, if any, to document the waiver?
I would say it doesn't apply.
Doesn't apply, okay.
It's legacied in, it was before.
It's grandfathered, so to speak.
Yeah, I mean, the APFO was passed or reviewed, I guess, and approved at the concept plan already. And then there was the intervening requirement, you know, to review these factors and memorialize, et cetera, et cetera. So I would say that this is different because it's final. And the APFO was already reviewed and presumably.
So you have to be patient with me.
Long night. Double check. I was reading the code.
I understand, as we all should, but I knew where you were going. You didn't know where I was going. So, so with that, it does not appear with the attorney's counsel that we do have to revisit the guidelines on the open space waiver, okay? Is there any discussion or concern about that? No? Okay. Then that's not an element of this review then. The APFO is done, was done, is certified as adequate in the 6 areas that it was considered. Parks and open space notwithstanding because there's no residential component. So now, with all that, let me turn to the applicant for any statements.
Thank you. The statements I want to make go to the, actually 25 C and D there. I'll start with D and work my way back to C. In terms of environmental, you'll note on the plan, and one of the reasons it took a year to get back here, other than just a few things, is that there is an MDE permit in place for disturbance of wetlands, recreation of wetlands that go along with the stormwater management facility. And you'll,
And this does have wetlands in it.
it has wetlands in it. We are expanding the wetlands as part of,
Hey, Ron, can you pull the mic
I'm
away from
sorry,
your mouth
yes.
just a little bit? I got
Too many
people too
Ps.
close, too far away.
we are expanding the wetlands as part of disturbances that occurred on the site as part of the industrial subdivision. So we worked with MDE in order to get a specific MDE permit for it, and actually, the shaded area is expansion of wetland area. It's low, it's wet. Soils are, so with some type of plantings, it will enhance the environment in that area down there. And again, we have on-site, all of the site goes to the three microbial facilities, which then outlet into underneath the culvert and into a wetland area, open space area that's owned by Brittany Manor, well, Fort. So from that perspective, when you look at are we environmental, yes. We have in here under water resource protection that we're meeting that, and the MDE permit is listed on page 1 as part of our meeting the environmental commitments for it. And of course, the town has stormwater management, water resource management, landscaping, forest conservation letters of approval for the site.
And you're referring to page 1,
Title
note,
sheet of the plan set.
note 3 under water resource protection.
Correct.
Okay.
So from that, we're compliant with the environmental. And again, this is not a processing area. It is office and warehouse type storage, which you see throughout the industrial park. In terms of the financial, the building area is 22,400 square feet. Water permit fees, subject to my interpretation of the town engineer, but that there's a basic fee of $25,500. Additional EDU would be another $35,600 for total water sewer permit fees, I believe, of $61,100. There may be other minor fees in the town code that I didn't bother to compute for it. And again, all of the water, sewer, roadway, and regional stormwater management facilities are in place. They were constructed by the developer. We're looking to try to get this building complete so we can complete the bond that sits out there for final paving of Backacre Circle. Town engineer requires 90% or just about all of the sites constructed. So we have now the 3 remaining. Lot 17 is under construction, the building. Lot 19 is coming in for building permit. That finishes all of the industrial construction that is under the PWA for the industrial park. For it. So in addition, you get the 8% inspection fees under the PWA. Water expansion fund is $3,818.75. And then building permit fee that would be paid to the town would be $2,340, so roughly about $67,000 in impact fees paid to the town.
And you could document all of those that you just listed for us?
I'll send a letter into the town attorney, not the attorney, the town, Tom doesn't want it, but
Director of
Mr.
Planning.
Breeden, I'll put it in a letter,
Planning director.
And you're
Mr.
specifically
Breeden, that
addressing,
this is my computations.
right, and you're specifically addressing 25-4C.
Correct.
And as far as 25-4D, governmental environmental standards compliance, you would document.
I would put
believe
that
you
in
would
a
say
letter
the
also.
MDE. Go ahead. So among those items, you would include the MDE permit, underwater protection, and all other applicable environmental standards that you are permitted to conduct on this site as a part of the plan. Okay. Any questions from the commissioners on this application? Again, this is a final plan approval. The next step would be PWA and bonding. It would be permitting. John, anything to add?
I'm sorry, correct.
Right. Are there any questions with regard to the heights of the buildings that are displayed in their elevations?
So there was a comment about that, and I don't know if, Rod, if you want to.
I can address
Expand on that.
that we are in compliance. Town code says that you take the average grade around the building to determine the height, and you would go to the mid-peak of it. I actually provided an elevation, and the maximum is 45 feet. I provided an elevation or distance from the lower level to the mid-peak, and that is 42.23 feet, which is shown in the plan. So we're under the 45 feet requirement.
Gotcha.
So that was the question, is why didn't you go to the, when you said the mid-peak, so halfway up the slope of the grade and not the actual peak itself?
That's what the code requires. Under building height and definition zoning, and to the mean height level between eaves and ridge of gable, hip, or gambrel roof. So, following the code. I have to go to the top of a flat roof, but midpoint of a peaked or
Of a peaked roof.
other type of roof, yeah.
Okay. John, are you satisfied with that?
Yes, if that's, I didn't have an opportunity to look at the code before tonight's meeting, but
We typically measure to the height of the ceiling of the uppermost conditioned space. That's why there's interest in why you measured at the middle of the peak of the gable. Yeah.
Town code.
I got you.
No, at 36 feet to the height of,
The wall.
yeah, of the first floor.
Right.
But going to the mid-peak for definition building height.
Okay. The only other question I had with regard to the maintenance of the B&R, there were those 3 nutrient ponds.
Microbial retention,
There you go.
those are required for on-site stormwater management.
Right.
They are required, and I believe the plan has a maintenance schedule. It has something that has to be signed where they're responsible, the developer is responsible for maintaining those on site. They get inspected
Right.
every 3 years
And I believe
by the
that-
county.
and that-
Nothing for the town to do at all.
Yeah, and I saw a note again on the front page notes that there's some alluding to that agreement, that maintenance agreement of those 3 ponds is in coordination with the town. So it speaks of stormwater maintenance, stormwater management easement and maintenance agreement underneath the stormwater management. So that includes those 3 ponds, and that's an agreement in concert with the town.
Correct. There's language in the stormwater management manual, Carroll County Stormwater, specifically for the town of Mount Airy, that's put in the plans.
Right.
that grants access to the town and their designated representatives, which includes Carroll County. So that's what that agreement is for.
Gotcha. And Barney, you're happy with that?
And it's also a deed, it'll be a deed that's recorded with the land record, so that'll go on file. It'll be recorded simultaneous with this.
Okay. Okay. Any questions from the commissioners on this? Any further questions?
I did, Mr. Chair. Was there any reason that the landscape, the plants weren't all native?
Why they are?
Why they aren't?
I thought they were.
We reviewed for that, and this was native plants within our zone. Which ones do you have any problem with? Once again?
This is a Chinese plant, Sakes integra. And I think inkberry holly is not even native to Maryland.
I think part of the bushes may not be part of the challenge that I have is to find plants that have shrubs
Yeah.
that have some color to them. And when they're native,
It's not going to be a lot.
they're hardly anything,
the
hardly
tree-
anything at all.
The trees were fine, yeah, but
So that's why I try to,
I would appreciate it if we could at least not use the Asian plants.
yeah, that,
At least stick to North America if we had that much of a challenge.
yeah, I think you're talking about the tricolor.
Yeah.
Drape willow. That can just be a condition to change
Yeah.
it.
I appreciate it.
Yeah.
So landscaping limited to native plants?
Yeah.
Any other questions from the
I think,
commission?
Mr. Chair, what he asked was to change out the tricolored dappled willow to something more native species.
And
Yeah.
and the holly
If I-
too, Steve?
The-
Or-
I mean, the holly's not technically native either, but the inkberry is more Midwest, but if you could, but definitely the one is a no-go.
If we generalize that such that all landscaping and screening be limited to native plants, I think that's satisfactory. Any other questions from the commissioners on this action or this agenda item? If not, then I'll entertain a motion to approve or disapprove the concept plan, and it may be a conditional approval in the motion. If not, I'll make the following motion. I make the motion for conditional approval of the final site development plan for Lot 14C. That's correct, isn't it, John?
Yes.
14C of the Twin Arch Business Park, Section 4, subject to the following 5 conditions. All town and county comments must be addressed before any final approval is granted or any grading permit is approved or signed off by the town of Mount Airy staff. Number 2 condition, providing all legal documents, easements, PWA, and bonding prior to approval of any grading permit or building permit. Item 3, provide documentation to satisfy Town of Mount Airy Code 25-4C. Number 4, provide documentation to satisfy the requirements in Mount Airy Code 25-4D. And lastly, as mentioned by Commissioner O'Malley, landscaping will be limited to native plants and trees. So those are the 5 conditions in the motion for a conditional approval. Do I have a second?
I'll second it.
Commissioner Butt seconds that motion. Do we have any further discussion? Requested amendments, changes? Hearing none, the motion with those 5 conditions is put to a vote. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? The conditional approval passes. We are closed with those agenda items tonight, and we shall now move to reports and other business. And Councilman Evans, how are you tonight, sir?
Doing great, thank you. Doing great. So for the April 8th Town Council recap, I'll go over new business first. We approved a contract for $33,000 to Carroll Land Services to continue and finish the South Main Street roundabout. The $33,000 will come out of AMT's existing contract, and no new money will be needed from the town. That was voted unanimously 5-0. We approved the bond release for Mount Airy Collision Center with a 5-0 vote. We approved the paving of Prospect Road entirely, not just the half of the road that was affected by the water main replacement. That was a unanimous vote as well. And the Beck property joint workshop was closed and no continuance was granted with a 3-2 vote. We will vote on the pre-concept plan on May 6th, next week. Ordinances 2024-3, budget amendment to add $49,000 to water and sewer capital for the purchase of a new pump for sewer station 3 was approved unanimously. 2024-6, budget amendment to add $12,000 for the train station pharmacy heat pump. Emergency amendment was approved unanimously. Ordinance 2024-7, budget amendment to add $20,000 for sewer line inspection on Backacre Circle was introduced for May adoption. Resolution 2024-2 for the purpose of allocating the town's available water and sewer capacity yield from 2024 to 2025 was approved unanimously. And ordinance 2024-4 for tax rates was introduced in public hearing scheduled for May 6th meeting at 7 p.m. Ordinance 2024-5 to adopt the budget for fiscal year 2024 to 2025 was introduced in public hearing was scheduled for May 6th at 7:15 p.m. Unfinished business, Flatiron concepts were discussed, and we decided on the plan number 2, the promenade, and more information regarding that will be coming soon. As far as new appointments, Cole announced the chair, Mrs. Adele Connolly, and the vice chair, Miss Mary Hushauer. Our next council meeting will be next Monday, May 6th.
Thank you.
Cool.
Thank you. Any questions to the council member?
Is the plan that was approved, is that online?
Yeah, all 3 of them should be on
Are they?
the Flatiron
Flatiron?
plans.
Flatiron.
Right?
I think they're online.
Okay.
Concept 2.
Somewhere, Steve, exactly where?
It was the one that didn't have the walkthrough and moving the building.
One that didn't have the walkthrough and moving the building.
So it was plan number 2, and it was a realignment of Main Street.
Right.
But again, that needs to get approval from State Highway. and
Highway.
Many other things.
Initial, that's the one the council agreed that we wanted to move forward with on other things, so.
So
nothing-
is the building staying?
The building is not getting relocated. The Main Street is,
You just-
currently the plan has a realignment of Main Street, which would then increase the sidewalk near the Flatiron, creating a crosswalk. It would be removing potential parking spaces along Main Street.
Yeah, and again, we just started the discussion with which direction, which plan we liked and wanted to go forward with. We didn't do anything else.
And on May 6th, you're going to be voting on the pre-concept plan for Beck.
Correct.
Any other questions?
Busy night on May 6th.
Yeah.
It has been a
And the
busy
tax
couple of months.
increase, yeah, that's going to be, yeah.
Thanks so much, Councilmember Evans. We now have the zoning administrator report. John provided us all the report, and if I may, John, just ask if there's any questions on it, or do you wish to go through any items?
The way it is, if you guys have any questions, we surely can answer it.
Okay. No questions on that? Then I'll quickly poll the dais here for any last comments. Commissioner O'Malley? No. Commissioner Beta?
No.
Commissioner Hadley? No. Commissioner Butts? No. Commissioner Bynett? Commissioner Wallace? Thank you. Then it is 9:49, and this meeting is adjourned. Thank you.
I think it might be 2 minutes slow.